Hello, I'm Cassie Quistorp, Assistant Executive Director of Klamath Film, and you just watched The Private Dance, a heartfelt film about the story of a woman who is emotionally drained when one night she decides to do something totally out of character and she gives herself an uplifting experience in memory. With us is the film's director, Ray Robison. Ray, thanks so much for submitting your film and being part of the Klamath Independent Film Festival. We are so excited to be speaking with you today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's known about the Klamath Film Festival for a long time, and you guys do a great job, and it's always so nice to be a part of it. And whenever I see the opportunity to get over to Klamath, I certainly do for the film festival. And yeah, glad to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, Ray, could you tell us a bit more about your filmmaking and storytelling background?
As a whole, for
Yeah.
well, it's a lot of years behind me on that, as you may be able to tell. No, actually, I started out as an art major in college, drawing and painting, and then uh, into my second term, someone from the other state school, this is in Montana, said he was in the film and television program in the photography option. And he told me about the other options. And he said, there was a film option. And I never even thought of that as a career or something I might do. But as soon as he said it, it was, well, that's what I want to do. I switched majors, switched schools, and then graduated and quickly decided I did not want to live in a metropolitan area. So I returned to Montana and worked for a TV station there, making TV commercials. And then basically the winters drove us out. So we landed here in Medford, working for a TV station, making television commercials again. But it was in about 2000, I think, that I was teaching part-time Ashland High School students video production, and that's when it sort of reignited that desire, that memory that I went to film school to make films, not to make TV commercials or marketing videos or all the other things I was doing to try to make a living. So I really dove into it, and film festivals have been a great platform to have to show my work, especially because not doing it commercially, you do it because you love the art of it. Yeah, so that's
Absolutely.
that's kind of what brings me here and why I keep entering film festivals and making films, not because I'm making a living at it.
Great. Yeah, it's all about the passion, and we're excited to have you and be able to share these stories. Well, what was the making like of this film, from the writer approaching you to the filming and post-production process?
Well, yeah, the writer Kathy came up to me and she had this story, and I looked at it and immediately liked it. And one of the reasons is that, uh, uh, as you know, if you know a writer, it's really nice in a way because you know what's in their story, and I could see so much of Kathy in this story, having known her a long time and know a lot of what she'd gone through in her life. I immediately identified her as Marla, the character, and I think anyone that writes really puts themselves in what they write. But I really saw that, and there were times when we would be chatting when she would start really basically, accepting the fact or confessing that really that is her, that's very much what she is like, what very much her life has been like, and what her feelings are like, that she looks for those moments where she feels like she can just leave everything else behind that's bothering her in her life, that's been difficult for her in her life. We started working on it. I'm gonna even have to guess when that first was. I think it was in 2019,
Wow.
pre-pandemic. And we thought, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna shoot the flashback scenes, and then next spring, then we'll shoot the other footage, with the idea that we had the opportunity to shoot the flashback scenes, but didn't feel like we could get everything else done uh, before the year was out. So, but then COVID hit, so that basically stopped us from making anything else until, oh God, I guess it was last fall when, yeah, last fall, when we had one of those periods of time when it's like, oh yeah, it's everything's good now. So, we have these small periods of time when like, oh yeah, everything's good. So, in making that, when I think about it, it was really, even though it was in that period of time that we view COVID as occurring and the pandemic as occurring, uh, things were very relaxed, and that was at the time really the attitude. I don't think any of us were wearing masks on set. There was really no concern about that at that time. So we basically had this nice little break for finishing the production off, and with the help of Klamath Film, of course, we shot the remainder of the movie in Klamath Falls and had access to some great locations. I was just amazed at what we were able to accomplish over there. So we finished it off over there and got it wrapped up later. I guess last winter was really kind of got it done, or maybe was this into this year. I can't remember exactly when we got it finished, but
Certainly, yeah. And well, congratulations on premiering this weekend. That's so exciting. It's certainly been an interesting past 2 years, 3 years for filmmaking. So kudos on just finishing the project as a whole and sticking with it, and, still being able to have that passion to finish the story and get the film out there.
yeah, well, there are so many great people in this community, the filmmaking community, both sides of the camera, that to be able to work with all of those here in Oregon has just been incredible. And even up north, I know a lot of the people up there as well. People I've worked with from the Portland area. So it is certainly a nice large community, and it's nice with what Klamath Film Festival has, where they really concentrate on what goes on in this state. Because there's definitely a lot of areas, but yet we are still one large community.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, so I'm interested, you and Kathy have worked together in the past, and as you said, she identifies with the main character herself. What is that relationship like when you are the director and it's a deeply personal story to the writer, and taking that from a short written story and putting it onto film?
Well, I do a lot of films where I'm not the writer, and uh, I guess I do take the stance that, it is my vision of what they've written, and that's the way it's got to be. So if I have questions, I will ask, but basically it is my interpretation of what they've written. So it basically, and I've compared it to some writers that get a little bit, uptight about it, but it's sort of like with films, you really don't get an opportunity to write a script and have it made multiple times. There are very few films, stories out there that have been done multiple times. Whereas if you write music, if there are covers of songs. So if you write a song, it can be done so many different ways by so many different performers, and that is so cool. It's like, wow, did you hear that version of my song, this version? You see what they did with my song? You don't get that opportunity when you make a film, but in a way you have to think of it that way. This is one cover of my story, one version of my story. It can be done differently. It could be done differently. And I know just in chatting with other filmmakers, sometimes you get that idea that it'd be great to take a single script and have multiple directors make that and see what they're like. But so anyway, I guess to kind of summarize that, it is where I do consider it my vision of their story, and I feel like I need to stick to that. And partly because I think if I allow too much coming in from the writer at the moment, in a way, it's sort of will confuse my vision or cloud it some. It's really just got to stay true to what I'm seeing in the story.
Absolutely, yeah. What an interesting dynamic, and like you were saying about the musicians, it's just an interesting process for sure. Well, so the main character, she doesn't have a single line throughout the entire short film. Could you talk about the decision to have that minimal dialogue in the film and using the visual scenes to really tell the story and convey the different emotions?
Um, you know, I've done other films in the past where there was no or minimal dialogue, and I do love doing stories that are not dialogue driven. And when you have such incredible actors, like Stephanie Jones is just incredible. You don't need to have a lot of dialogue, and to see what she was able to communicate with just her movement and her facial expressions is just incredible. Um, and I guess it's hard to really say where that decision of absolutely no dialogue
Mhm.
comes from, but you do kind of sense that it's right, that there's no need for that, because what she experiences throughout the story doesn't really require that she say anything, that she communicates to others. It's more a matter she's just trying to communicate to herself. And she does that in her own mind, with her own thoughts, with her own flashbacks. And it's sort of like that's her dialogue right there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful journey that you get to go on with the main character through her experiences and kind of arriving at the same place without any need for speaking words throughout the whole film. So really beautiful. But what do you hope people take away from this film?
Um, well, I hope, and well, actually I imagine a lot of people can relate to this characters on so many different levels. Um, you know, we all are different, and we're all shy to certain levels and respond to that shyness in different ways, and for that reason we get bullied, I guess we would say, in different ways at different levels. So I hope a lot of people can relate to this and see how their actions do affect others. Kathy is a very quiet person. And I would say that I identify with that same type of personality when I was younger, but I've really come out of it. I guess a lot of out of a need for what I'm doing as a filmmaker. I have to be more aggressive, more out there, more involved. But we did our cast and crew screening of the film, and Kathy, of course, was there, and we said something before or after the screening, and I said, Kathy, you want to say anything to the cast and crew? And she did not. She didn't. But for her, getting up and speaking in front of a group of people, even though it's a group of people she's worked with, she's like, she didn't want to do that. And that's the way she is. That's the way a lot of people are. And I think it's good to realize that what's going on within those people, that they're very good, kind people, and that they have their own challenges, as we all do. And so I guess basically just hope people relate to the character in whatever level they might.
Absolutely. And I find the title so interesting and almost contradictory to itself because while it is this private and deeply almost cathartic experience for this woman, it's also very public and out in the open with the dance. So what are your thoughts on the title and that embedded paradox there?
Um, and I guess that because it is so public, that's what's so freeing for her. Because in the moment, with no one around, obviously it's like, well, there's no one around, but at the same time, she's highly aware that she's being photographed.
Right.
So I guess that's part of what is freeing for her, is that she's doing something that she would never expect herself to do. So, uh, it really it is really that extreme activity that makes it, I think, very powerful. I mean, there's a lot of things that she could have done that could have been that release, but I think this is just so out there that it says so much. And you know, it's I think one of the things I appreciated with it, and because it's the kind of thing, and that's, you know, the kind of thing she's thought about. You know, it's like you think about doing something like that, but you never act on that. And I think that's a little bit of a saying it's okay to act on some of those crazy things you want to do. Don't worry about how other people may respond to it. Go ahead
Mhm.
and do something silly, out of the ordinary, daring, and be okay with it.
Yeah. Be okay to be yourself and choose yourself in that instance, in that moment. And, I think that's something probably the character hasn't done. And so it makes it this really beautiful scene and experience. And, speaking of that scene, it's obviously beautiful and emotional. And the actress does a phenomenal job of conveying all the feelings. And were there any behind the scenes of the filming in downtown Klamath Falls? Were there any bloopers or laughs during that funny emotion or emotional emotionally driven scene?
You
Um,
know, I don't really recall any bloopers. We were all so focused because it was late at night. We'd been there quite a while. And then the crew and Stephanie, we all know we've got to get this done. At that moment, and then certainly on set, there's always a lot of fun times. There's a lot going on. But when we got to that time, everyone knew we had a job to do and we had to get it done. You know, and I think, well, actually, because we shot some nighttime scenes with the additional people that were around, the guy sleeping,
yeah.
the teenage girl with the skateboard and stuff like that. But those were all shot first,
Mhm.
and basically released those people. It's like, okay, we want to get this as minimal size of crew as we can, and eliminate other cast members to make it as comfortable as possible. But really, when it came time, it was, you know, Stephanie was like, okay, let's go.
Yep,
Um,
on it.
and Stephanie was so great to work with because I originally was saying, you know, if you want to just do this in such a way that we totally uh, edit around body parts, you know, where it's like Disney style kind of thing. I said, well, you know, if you know, but she said, no, I'm good with doing it like this. And to me, it makes it so much more powerful to not be like a 1963 Disney movie kind of thing. You're showing somebody nude, but you only show their feet and their head and shoulders. And so she was definitely on board to do it as it should have been done. So I was so
Right.
pleased with that.
Absolutely committed to the role. And it definitely does make it, have that impact. And so did you have to close down the street, I'm assuming, for the scenes, or how did that work?
Yes, we were, thanks to the help of Klamath Films, the city of Klamath Falls, we were able to block the streets off, and were provided with barricades and all that. We were not able to shut down businesses, so there were still some establishments that were open, and you know, they were. I think we started filming about when everything officially closed. You know, all the bars closed down. But there were still people lingering about, and it was a little bit of an issue, but really not too much. You know, we knew that the scenes with Marla dancing in the middle of the intersection would be the last of what we would film. So it had cleared out pretty well. You know, there were some people still about, but you know, I had to like this, had the crew keeping their eye out on people, and just, you know, having to go and say, can you stand back? Can you move away? That kind of thing. But really not too bad considering how small the crew was and what was going on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you again so much, Ray, for your time. Do you have any final thoughts or takeaways or shout outs you'd like to give to our audience or to the crew on the private dance?
Um, Final thoughts. Ooh, I love the questions because
I
just
know.
go with an answer. Final thoughts has become a little bit more different. No, I mean it is different with our society and film festivals. When you do something that does have nudity in it, it's it's not necessarily accepted. And I'm sure there's been a lot of film festivals that have not shown have decided not to show the private dance because of the nudity. But I'm. Uh, for me, it's not really an issue. And when I see and have seen really, when people have a task to do like that, they are so professional. It is just incredible. And I personally, because as I mentioned, I was an art major my first year of college, so uh, uh, right off, I was 18 years old, and I would spend 6 to 9 hours each week in a studio with nude model, men or women. It's like you're there to draw and paint, and you just it's nothing silly or sexual about it. It's just it's the art of it, and it's really nice, because that was a long time ago. But it's nice when you do have those productions that do have nudity, and you see how everyone just steps up with being very appropriate, mature about how they handle it. And it is interesting how our society views nudity. So and like I said, it's nice to do something once in a while where we have nudity and try to really emphasize that it's not done for a sensual reason at all.
Right. Artistic and freeing and kind of breaking the mold of it, and
Mhm.
especially in our kind of confines of society, and certainly a lot of respects. Well, thank you so much, Ray, for talking with us today. We are so excited to have you in the 10th annual Klamath Independent Film Festival. And yeah, we're so looking forward to seeing you.
Great. Thanks a lot.